So I realize a lot of people are not really living really good, godly type lives. A lot of people say they're about God, especially on Hollywood and stuff, but they're really promoting like some Satanism or some occultism when it comes to saying, "Oh, I'm about God, but I'm gonna support Satan or I'm gonna support the occult." Um, there's many women I look up to, and there's quite a few women I look up to right now, and in the industry of acting and music and etc. But a lot of people have that like Illuminati, like Illuminati showcase to them, where they kind of do these things that are almost like rituals to the Illuminati or to Satan, right on like live TV or in their music videos and stuff. So it's true. I mean, it's true. I mean, I'm very lustful after some of these women. Like fucking Chloe Bailey. Chloe Bailey is like fucking gorgeous, and I'm fucking lusting after her and her sister. But regardless of the factor, some of these women are not really. I don't think they're really godly based as they claim to be. I mean, they could say, "Oh, I'm about God," but completely live a totally different life, or totally different life that you would even consider to be able to be part of the godly notion of what God is. So a lot of these, like a lot of the celebrities and stuff too, are pushing the Black Lives Matter and all this cultural wokeism and stuff that it's been sweeping America. It's been sweeping our arts. It's been sweeping our politics in our nation and our world. And I can just do without the wokeism. I can do without the wokeism. I can do without all that. I know there's some people out there that are not going to make me feel bad about my skin color, about being who I am, But I mean, I've tried supporting Black Lives Matter, and from the start of like the first couple months into supporting Black Lives Matter and supporting these pro-black women and these pro-black artists, I felt very poorly about myself. I had to feel very poorly about myself because of differences of ideologies and the fact that I'm just white and they're black. Which nobody should have to feel like that, but it happened. So. But the point being is there's a lot of Satanism, there's a lot of wokeism that's, promoting the Satanism in like music and entertainment to these days. There's a lot of Satanism, I've already kind of gone into the fact of like my childhood and how I kind of, when my father kind of left when I was like 5 or something, and I guess before he left, my mom said, my mom had mentioned to me that he kind of struck me or something before he left. He kind of struck me and walked out the door and struck my mom. My mom also told me about a story about how when I was younger too, I used to be like Harry Houdini and basically, was able to undo the locks of the doors. I was able to undo the locks of the doors like Harry Houdini, and basically, as a child, basically escape from my mom's condo down the street in Waterbury and etc. Which I don't have all the bits and pieces because most of my memory around that time had been blacked out. One, because it was it was earlier on where people didn't understand autism and things, and I was heavily medicated and etc. And I was going through things, but I'm sure somebody found me or something, and there might have been some abuse there. I don't really fully know or can fully say for sure, so I don't really know. I can't really fully say whether I was or wasn't, but I can say that that a lot of my childhood has been blacked out, so. I kind of put that piece together when my mom said, "Oh, you used to run out the door, like Harry Houdini, as a kid, and kind of undo the latch of the door and be halfway down the street in Waterbury." I said, "Oh." So I'm assuming somebody tried to do something to me in Waterbury, when I was younger, and pretty much was a freaking pervert, and but. I don't have the the full like knowledge of it to say yes or no or all this other stuff, so I can't even really answer somebody whether I have been or had not been sexually abused. My mom confirmed that I was physically abused, but But regardless, there's a whole thing about my upbringing that kind of led me to almost thinking I was bi, which some of it had to do with trauma and stuff. As I was getting into the other video about the trauma of the different things I've been through and stuff, that I started questioning myself as I turned 23 and kind of was, on my own, and kind of place. I'm still kind of working. I'm still kind of dealing with the state, but I'm on my own. But I'm in like a mental health program. But I'm living on my own and doing my own thing. But still, when I was younger, I kind of came out as bi. I don't know if that was really a good thing to do because I don't really consider myself to be a woman. I don't consider myself to be transgender. I was like, oh, I'm just a guy that likes guys. It's okay to be bi. It's okay to be this way or act that way. But really, it just seems really unnatural for a guy to be doing those type of things and just really kind of wrong I don't know. Some of the things I think I look back on my life and kind of how I was swayed a little bit to go, like in my style. I was going through like a crisis when I was like, a certain age, and my style was like, I don't know, just a cry for help. But you know, I'm at the point now. It's like I am. I know. Just because somebody freaking wanted to take advantage of me and be a piece of shit and kind of scar my life and scar my psychology for the rest of my life does not mean does not necessarily mean that I necessarily need to come out as bi. It was something I brought up to a therapist at one point in time, and the therapist was like, well, it could. I mean, it could have an impact on you whether you're bi or not. If you actually had been scarred, and you kind of depending on how you heal and how you deal with things, it could have an impact on that whole situation. But I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm what they call a classic case of somebody who is going to have a testimony, and it's going to pretty much seem or sound like the classic case of similar to everybody else's. Somebody who just didn't want to, go with the church, and rebelled from the church, or rebelled from this, or rebelled from his parents this, and pretty much all did this shit that basically is part of the testimony. But it's going to seem like a played out testimony in a way, because it really just seems like I'm going through the same old shit, and some of that's because of my own doing, or my own situations of not listening and not really taking heed when I needed to. But part of me wanted to find out the hard way, right? Part of me wanted to find out the hard way and gain that life experience, because obviously there was no father to teach me. My mother couldn't teach me, so what the fuck am I supposed to do? Go find out what the world holds. So I'm very lucky. I haven't really I really haven't become a drug addict or an alcohol addict, or I'm trying to think of what I was also going to say. But yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm not like on drugs, and you have no sexual transmitted diseases, and none of that. So I'm very lucky to have none of that. Despite the fucking shadiness I kind of got myself involved in at times, and situations when I feel like I should have known better, and I didn't fully know better, but now it's like I know better, and it's like, would you ever go down that road again? And the answer is probably not. I probably wouldn't go down the same road I've already been, because I don't like the road. I don't like the where I had been, and how it kind of has affected my life. Sorry, I'm rubbing my eyes because I'm very, very tired at this point. I was laying down for a little bit, just trying to let my phone charge, but I'm exhausted. I mean, I'm literally pouring energy drink into a cup right now, about to drink an energy drink in a cup, because I'm like freaking exhausted, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I should sleep. I don't know if I should run around. I don't know if I should go for a walk, but I don't know. Regardless, there's the people say, oh, you're like a classic case of somebody who's obviously out in the wilderness and who has sinned and all this other shit. I mean, it's kind of playing on my need for, my need to go towards God, but at the same time, kind of like in my rebellion, kind of almost wanting to keep me there. It's kind of like a weird tug and pull. It's like I want to go seek God. I want to go seek the things I feel more will bring me more closer to my truths in God and who God is for me and what I want to see in the world. But at the same time, I feel like there's a tug and pull between like the classic case thing where it's like, I almost want to stay in some of these behaviors or things and just like not have to deal with shit. But thing is, I'm really dealing with a lot of shit, and I've been through a lot of shit that I've kind of gone back and forth multiple times on saying, oh, I want to be more more in tune with God and etc. But yet I'm falling into the ways of the world and the ways of this and that, and unfortunately, there's some things out there right now that are just promoting Satanism, as I was trying to say before. They're just promoting Satanism. There's music out there promoting Satanism. There's movies promoting Satanism. Satanism is just being promoted like 24/7 in our entertainment and media and movies and shit. That really, I mean, I'm not a Satanist. That's one thing I've always said about myself. I'm not a Satanist. I mean, I might have dabbled in tarot cards. Might have tarot cards. But, I'm not really a Satanist. I mean, I've never really considered myself a worshiper of Satan, but maybe to some that doesn't mean I'm not necessarily Satan, because obviously everybody has their own beliefs, but, the point being is I look at Chloe Bailey, and some people say, oh, Chloe Bailey is not of God, and people say, oh, Holly Bailey is not of God. I mean, in some cases, I can see that by the way they dress when they promote their albums. Very, very sexually driven. Holly Bailey already has like nude pics basically leaked online. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how I know that, but Holly Bailey basically has nude pics basically leaked online. So she's obviously kind of been bare doing some shit that she wasn't supposed to do. Some of these women really, what they promote and how they promote it, and, I mean, people say, oh, Satanism is cool, Satanism is something not to be feared, but if the Bible is right, a lot of people are going to hell. I might even be going to hell for some of the stuff I've already dabbled in, But if the Bible is right, the world's going to hell, or it's on its way to hell, and, people are promoting hell, and people are making it seem like it's cool to, like, worship demons and do what they have to do to, be about that life, when really it's only promoting the sin and the Satanism that really is possibly going to take people further from God and a godly life, So, I mean, I kind of was watching something on YouTube, and it said, so it was kind of like a prophetic message about people saying, beware of Tyler Perry, beware of beware of some of these celebrities you follow, beware of Tyler Perry, and so somebody said that, in a prophetic message that, Tyler Perry, benefits off the black pain of the black community. He's very sexually explicit as when he dresses up as Medea. He's kind of promoting transgenderism, doing that and stuff like that, and it's not. Some people say it's not okay, and yet some of the people that support him, they all say they're Christians, but they're all people that are still kind of highly ranked in the industry of, like, what they promote and stuff like that. So that was something that was actually said to me, but and it's true. It's probably very, very well true. I mean, a lot of people have careers and stuff, and they're really high ranked in the industry. I'm pretty sure now that the devil knows God as well. The devil knows God as well, and the devil's hoping to prey on Christians and use their industry talents and stuff to just manipulate them and try to get one over on them too, and try to make them feel like they're that they're doing something good, but really they're living in some type of sin or injustice for God, and they're gonna end up going to hell or something. So my mom tried to raise me very conservative. I think I was said before, my mother lost custody of me. She lost custody of me to DCF and stuff. So she never really raised me in the conservative church light. But I'm kind of, it's funny because sometimes they say sometimes we grow up and we kind of almost end up being just like our parents, you know. We end up being just like our parents, that, you know, in the ways we grow up, or with our values and stuff. Or we always end up being kind of like our parents in the ways, you know, the ways we end up turning out in. um I mean, there's ways I'm not like my mother. There's ways I'm not like my father. But both my parents were mentally ill. You know, my father shouldn't have had me as a child, but here I am. My mother almost couldn't have me as a child, but here I am. So, you know, but regardless, you know, God had a reason for me being on this earth. God had a purpose for whatever He needed me to do, and I don't know what that purpose is, because obviously I'm being kind of blacklisted for speaking my mind and speaking my truths when it comes to things I'm not okay with or don't agree with, or kind of feel I need to be more passionate about, like the politics and my, you know, my views and what I think is okay and what I think is not okay, and, you know. Um, I mean, I just spoke on me trying to be professional. Me trying to be professional, even though I might not agree with stuff, and I was just trying to tell somebody. I was just trying to be professional, you know, regardless of the situation. Trying to be professional about it and try to just, you know, go along with it, even though I might not agree with everything. I'm trying to still be professional for the sake of everybody being able to get along and stuff. But I was basically told by that person, who obviously has had issues with me before and stuff, and especially with the wokeism and Black Lives Matter and stuff, that they just simply didn't care. They simply don't have a lot of time. They simply don't care. And it's kind of more like a fuck you and leave me the fuck alone. So that's basically what it was. And he's part of the open mic nights that actually I was a part of here in Torrington, and kind of lost, which also started a big debate and argument between me and the head of the National Beat Poetry Foundation, who still wanted me to see. He was still kind of thinking away, thought I should still try to get involved with the poetry stuff here in Torrington, and, you know, try to get involved and stuff, even though there were disagreements about how to go about it, and etc. So, I mean, I don't. I mean, I always felt kind of a shadiness about the two people who ran that open mic. I mean, I can tell at some of the events there were people who liked me and there were people who didn't like me. And I also felt too that some cases there were people that just kind of used me for support, you know. They just used me for financial support and artistic support, and really kind of just wanted to use me as a money situation so they could get money off of me, and, you know, could care less about the, you know, whatever else afterwards, you know. So I'm kind of at that point where it's just like, you know, I mean, I don't make a lot of money. I am a disabled artist. I mean, it says it on my art page, you know, which is now called the Artistic Creative, which is a new way of kind of reinventing myself and going forward from where I've kind of been, because I've always kind of been under my name, which I've kind of wrote Carl Nicholas Urso, but I also put like K Art there, you know, to kind of give it like a business name under my name, you know, as saying, oh, this is my page, I'm an artist, but I'm giving it a whole different brand name and thing to go by, because I think it's just time for a change and kind of a new chapter in my life where, you know, things are going to be going a little bit differently, especially artistically and etc. I mean, obviously I lost all my publishers, you know. I won't lie. I'm waiting on 3 books to be delivered. I ordered 3 books. I ordered the anthology from the National Beat Poetry Foundation. I had ordered 2 books from Local Gems Press. Never got them. It's been a couple of months from the Local Gems Press one. Still waiting. Still waiting. You know, just about on the one for, you know, the National Beat Poetry Foundation. But if I don't get them soon, I'm going to have to go to my bank and actually make a bank complaint, because I'm not really good. I'm going to just have to ask for my money back, because that's over $40. That's over $40 or so on books that I you know, I could have back in my pocket, you know, especially if I'm not getting, you know, any goods or merchandise that I'm supposed to, you know. supposed to get for, for the publishing, for putting that money forward to get a copy of the works of my publishing poems. So, I mean, they all published my poems in those books. I mean, all 3 books have my poems in them, but to get them, they kind of do it as a fundraiser. You have to buy the book, and you get a copy of the book. But I mean, the funds go supposedly for a nonprofit, as the National Beat Poetry Foundation supposedly is a nonprofit, or I don't know if it's a nonprofit per se, but I thought it was a nonprofit. But the head of the National Beat Poetry Foundation could be making a profit out of that, and etc. For just my poems being published, and people just telling people to buy the book, and just gaining money from people buying the books. The other thing I was talking to some people about too is that this disagreement kind of took me away from my heroes. The black community and stuff have their heroes, but I didn't necessarily have the connections per se. That was more of the publisher for the National Beat Poetry Foundation. But some of the National Beat Poetry Foundation, or the beat poets per se that inspire the National Beat Poetry Foundation, who some of them have connections to the National Beat Poetry Foundation, are among the people of my heroes, or were once among the people of my heroes. I don't know where I fully stand with that. I mean, some of them I still want to support, and I still want to get books by and actually have books by in my collection. But the point being is that, there was a simple disagreement, and I didn't really control my connections to the artists when it came to the National Beat Poetry Foundation, etc. That was the publisher. That was the person who ran the thing. So by causing a disagreement, or by choosing not to agree with me on something, which she kind of said, I don't really have a stance about what happens in Torrington, and etc. It doesn't really affect me, but then wanted to make a big deal about me and how I should go about things a different way, telling me like everybody else I need to get my meds checked, or my medications checked, or basically just making comments about my mental health, and my what they hope is my instability, when it comes to my mental health, and having to call the cops, or trying to put me in a very fucked up situation. So I'm pretty fucked up about that, just having to deal with that. But the only thing I can really do is walk away. It's a disagreement, yes, but I mean, unless she admits that she wants to go forward, and she was wrong to say that to me, we can't go forward. And if she doesn't want to admit that she's wrong, we're still not going to be able to go forward. But which also really sucks, because she also has connections to people, or also had kind of worked with people that are my heroes. So I'm kind of getting shortchanged around my heroes, because the publisher wants to be some type of way, because she just simply doesn't agree. Yet she claims she wasn't even affected by the situation, but yet she seems so opinionated about me, my life, in the situation, like it fucking matters to her. I mean, I guess I wanted to tell her about something, and yes, I don't think she wants me to burn the bridges, but I'm trying to tell her the bridges have already been burned. They were kind of going that way for the last several months before, I had to walk away from the publisher. So that's basically where I was at, But, a lot of people in town, especially when a friend of mine originally, because originally I was really right there saying Black Lives Matter with everybody else. I was right there saying Black Lives Matter with everybody else. I had the anti-racism books. I had, the clothes. I had the flags, the whole 9 yards. And some of my artist friends knew about it. One of my artist friends became the head of the Northwest Arts Council when the other lady retired. She was working for the Northwest Arts Council, and then she became the head of it when the other lady retired. So, and then she made it a big thing about Black Lives Mattering for the Arts Council. So if you don't believe in Black Lives Matter, if you don't believe in the wokeism, you can't get a fucking artistic career in fucking Torrington, because you can't get you gotta believe in the fucking wokeism and all the fucking shit that basically just doesn't work for you, and it doesn't it doesn't work for me anymore. anymore, you know? I've kind of changed, I've kind of grown, I've kind of evolved, and I've kind of looked at myself in certain situations, and certain things just don't certain things just don't mesh well or just don't work for me anymore as I once did, you know? And people are upset about it, and it's causing a lot of people to argue and fight and have a lot of, artistic differences and personal differences, as most of the artists I was friends with most of them were personal friends with me at one point in time, as I mostly deleted most of them off my Facebook page, and I'm working on deleting most of them off my other social medias as well, One thing about my social medias, which I was kind of looking at today, is that I can't get into I have a personal Instagram. I have my Instagram I use is supposed to be my art page or my art Instagram, but I have a personal Instagram, and I can't seem to get back into it. I've had a hard time getting back into it since 2020. I had a hard time getting back into my personal Instagram, so I can't get back into my personal Instagram at all. So I mean, the last time I used it was 2020 during the pandemic. So, I'm at the point now where I'm just trying to breathe and do what I have to do to, get by. I mean, I have an art page. I've been using the art page for both my personal, an art Instagram. And my art Instagrams for both. I have an art Instagram that's used for both my art Instagram, and it's also used for my, my personal Instagram. But, if I look tired, I'm exhausted. I'm fucking exhausted. I've run myself into exhaustion, and there's still a lot of shit I gotta do. I've been washing. I've been trying to wash a shirt. I mean, I'm gonna post about it a little later, but I was trying to wash a shirt in like OxyClean because I gotta wash it by hand, and washing it by hand was actually so disgusting because I don't know. I'm wondering if the shirt's bleeding, if it's a black shirt, but I'm wondering if the shirt's bleeding or if it was just dirty, because the OxyClean is supposed to take out the dirt out of the shirt. But if I told you how dirty the water looked, it was awful. Then again, I just found it, and I just found the shirt, that shirt that I was supposed to wash by hand in a bunch of wet towels the other day, and it was getting kind of moldy and stuff, so I kind of had to soak it in some water and kind of throw some, OxyClean and soap and all kinds of stuff on it to try to get it to, rinse out and smell good, and I'm going to hang it up over my shower, but, because some of my shirts are only hand wash only, so I can't wash them in the, washer, otherwise they're going to get ruined, but, I am going conservative. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I'm going conservative, and as I said before, I'm probably going to vote for Trump. I mean, a lot of people are going to be upset about it. A lot of people are going to be like, why the fuck are you voting for Trump? You're a traitor, you're this, you're that, and I just don't give a fuck anymore. If you feel that way, you can get off my page, because there's basically a delete button. If you can do it peacefully, that'd be more better for all of us, But... I will hold the door open for you on the way out. That's how much I actually am expecting people to leave at this point. That are probably not going to agree with me for voting for Trump, or gonna be voting for Trump possibly this next election. So, but I'm doing a political switch. I mean, I tried the liberals, I tried the Democrats for several years, especially when supporting the arts and stuff, and the liberals, the Democrats, and the arts, and in personal issues with people who are supposed to be my personal friends, or people who are supposed to be in my personal circle, all let me down. Bottom line, I'm not going to get into the whole gist of everything, because that could take another hour. But regardless, it kind of changed my views on politics. It's kind of changed my views on where I stand, politically, personally, artistically, and a bunch of other stuff, I mean, some of it was a simple disagreements, but I'm sure the disagreements are going to be bigger if people don't really agree about voting for Trump, or, me being a Trump supporter. Most people don't. So, some people do, some people don't. So, Part of me was going to vote for John, John F. Kennedy or whatever his name is, Robert Kennedy or whatever his name is. Not John F. Kennedy, but Robert Kennedy. Part of me was going to vote for Robert Kennedy, but I would still be voting for a Republican at that point. So it doesn't really matter if I vote for Trump or John F. Kennedy. I'm still voting for a Republican because they both basically run the Republican Party. So it doesn't really matter. I really actually should go like John F. Kennedy's thing on Instagram too, because it's basically just the same thing, just a Republican. So, my mom was in and out of my life, but she still kind of never let go of, basically, she never let go of me as her being her son, and never let go of me never let go of the idea that she wanted to try to raise me in certain values and things. The thing is, I don't have to have those certain values and things and stuff like that, but sometimes life just has a way of making us like our parents, as I said before. Life has a way of making us come out, into situations like our parents and like the people we, that supposedly raised us and we grew up with, that that we love, that we end up kind of being like those people. I mean, I'm still with the fucking state of Connecticut with mental health services because both my parents kind of put me in a position, and I put myself in some positions, which, I mean, obviously I didn't act on certain things when I could have accordingly, but I mean, obviously I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for a lot, and now that I am ready for certain things, I don't really have the resources and etc. to, carry out certain things and etc. I'm going to say this openly. Because I know I'm going to have to just say this openly. Is that people say, oh, T'Challa had a testimony. T'Challa overcame things with the state. And I'm bringing up T'Challa for this reason, because part of the reason why I actually liked T'Challa and I actually knew about, some of what T'Challa, after realizing some of what T'Challa went through, I thought T'Challa would have been a really good person to really, be there for me as a friend, or as somebody who I might have a relationship with, that would really be beneficial to my life and where I was actually going to be supposed to be headed, which a lot of people said I was actually kind of in an artistic situation similar to what they are in, but I wasn't going to be necessarily deemed as a staff member, but, or work for Toivo just yet per se, but I was still an artist out in the community. I was still a poet doing some of the similar things that they were doing, and had a very similar testimony, or they wanted me to kind of be able to work on some things to have a very similar testimony or situation like T'Challa's, that basically I would overcome things and probably get my life a little bit more away from the state and be independent. But my independence and everything in the situation kind of got derailed when the arts kind of got derailed, and some of the things I was doing independently in the arts and out in the community kind of failed. It kind of all got derailed, And they put me in an independent program in my mental health program. There's a program where you're supposed to be more independent, There's 3 programs. There's the young adults, there's the CSP, which handles like the adults that need a bit more extra care, and then there's the outpatient program, which I was put in the outpatient program because I was being independent for a while. There, I was able to get a ride to get the place to place and be able to do what I need to do independently. Just like from a ride service, not like actual, like, get to an event and stuff. I mean, that was still something I needed help with, getting to a poetry event or getting to an event in town or something. But, for appointments and things, the state is always going to have something where they're going to be able to have a ride service where they're going to be able to get things in order for people to have rides to, like, appointments and things. But I still needed a friend. I still needed somebody to be there for me, to help me, get me on my feet, to really get the, some of the other steps I needed to be independent, get going and etc., to be able to be independent and kind of really succeed on what everybody hoped or wanted me to do, and in this outpatient program about being more independent. But so even some of the ride services to my appointments and stuff aren't reliable. They started up, in the last several years. They started up and they started up and they were a service that was going on. It's a service that's still going on, but it's very unreliable. I mean, you gotta get up like 5 or 6 in the morning, to call for a 7 o'clock ride, and then if you can't get the 7 o'clock ride or so, or if you know, you're screwed, because, and it's true, sometimes I'll get a hold of somebody and say, hey, I would like to schedule a ride, and by that time they say, oh, we're already booked for the day. You can't get a ride for the day. Try again tomorrow. Try later on this week. So you're screwed for the day, and you got to just basically stay home. I mean, the good thing about it though too is back when I was trying to utilize that resource and that ride service, I was being more independent. You know, there were times I actually used it to go to Goodwill. There were times I actually used it to go to Ocean State Job Lot. There were times I actually used it to go to CVS. You know, that's when I could get up early enough and get the ride service to actually do that. You know, you got to have money to actually go places too, and you know, money as I go forward is kind of scarce because there's some things I kind of need. You know, there's things off my wish list I kind of do need. You know. In real life, you know, like, you know, things I actually am gonna actually need in the next couple of months. That I'm trying to obtain actually in my real life situations. I'm trying to go to either Walmart or Target or etc. to try to obtain these things so I can actually live better. You know, like I just got 2 new sheet sets. I mean, there was like 5 sheet sets on my wish list. I found 2 of them at Walmart. You know, so I got two nice fresh sheet sets. But you know, I'm just at that point now. It's just like, you know. I'm exhausted. I knew I would be. After having the meeting I was supposed to have. I mean, I didn't get back home until after 12:30. I mean, I didn't get started on my laundry until 2 o'clock. You know, luckily I brought my lunch with me. I brought my lunch and stuff with me, but I am doing something with my mental health program and some other peers of mine, you know, who I can't mention names and stuff because of confidentiality, but I am doing something where I'm the head of an art committee or an art board to try to make it where we can display artwork in the agency. Basically, we're going to display it in the agency. There's going to be a big thing about that coming up in the next couple of weeks. We just worked on the flyer, or worked on the finishing touches of the flyer. You know, basically, you know, yesterday we worked on the finishing touches of the flyer. So that's about to be released in the next couple of weeks. I was told I can get a couple copies of the flyer we made, you know, to pass out, or maybe keep 1 or 2 for myself. You know. Of course, it's just going to be for the mental health agency. It's just going to be for the mental health agency. It's just going to be for the clients, and we opened it up to the staff members too. We opened it up to the mental health, staff members if a mental health staff member wants to enter a piece they created or something, they can do that too. You know. It was talked about among everybody. I said, hey, if we want to incorporate staff, you know, there's some artistic people. I mean, it might give us more work. I don't know who really is artistic enough to really want to, you know, incorporate their artwork on the walls of the agency to be displayed. But you know. But that's what I was working on. I was working on the flyer. I was eating. I was trying to just chill and trying to breathe because I knew as soon as I came home I had a lot of work to do. I'm still slowly doing a lot of work, or doing some work, because I got some stuff I got to clean, and you know. I mean, I had to cook today. I mean, I made steak, but I'm still, you know, now it's almost 6 o'clock and I need to make another something to eat, you know. I'm thinking like BLTs. Because I got bacon in there, I got bread, I got lettuce. So I'm thinking about a BLT, just make it simple and sweet, you know. I'm actually drinking my energy drink, which I usually have an energy drink sometimes when I make a BLT, so, and especially on the weekend. So I might as well make a BLT. But I'm exhausted. If I tell you I'm exhausted, I'm exhausted. Look at my eyes. I'm exhausted. Got bags under my eyes. And my glasses need to be cleaned, you know. But regardless, I had very much, I could see that there could have been a very good similarity between me and Chinchilla Williams when it came to our testimonies and trying to overcome things with the state to be more independent and be as, you know, hopefully maybe be as independent as some of the other poets that might have had, you know, connections to, like, you know, recovery and things that could have been more independent and more, you know, well received with my artwork and stuff. But Sometimes they say sometimes they say, you're supposed to support the support you have, and the people who support you matter. And unfortunately, because of a lot of shady shit and a lot of bullshit that went down, especially drama with like people in the town and stuff, and people from my recovery thing, that there's some people that's willing not to let me actually get any type of recognition when it comes to like my artwork, or like any type of positivity or any type of shit from working very hard to try to get it get it met, because people just want to come into my life and interfere shit, or kind of say shit about my life and etc. to people, where a lot of people just don't even want anything to do with me, or etc. So it's kind of affected my lack of support. um I mean, there's some people that might come up to me and say hello. There's people I've actually come up to and said hello to. But obviously, as far as like dating or anything, I don't see myself dating or anything at this time. I think I would have to get the fuck out of Torrington at this point. I would have to get the fuck out of Dodge and get the fuck out of here and just like go, because I don't see myself being able to date anybody else in the town at this point. I feel like I need to just get the fuck out of here and go to another location. So, I might not even be an artist if I have to move and take my shit. I mean, I might not be an artist. My artistic stuff might change, because I don't know. I mean, right now I have some artistic opportunities for staying in Torrington, but I don't think I'm fully meant to stay in Torrington my whole entire life. I'm here for a season. I'm here for however long, but I mean, if God wants to move me, or if I feel like there's a necessary need to move, I should be able to move, and that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, I think I should move in a way that, or at least I've tried to have God move me. I've tried to have God, or spirit, or whatever you want to call it, try to get me to another location. But, some of the places I've already tried to apply for certain locations, etc., just don't really work for me anymore, and etc. So, I'm at that point where it just doesn't matter anymore. But anyways, yeah, so basically what I was trying to say, and the main thing is that celebrities are sinful. Some of these celebrities are sinful. I mean, I just saw a picture of Chloe Bailey today wearing a bride's veil and some like short booty shorts and like her thong showing and shit. I mean, like she's promoting sex like crazy. I mean, like the world promotes sex like it's a fucking There's nothing wrong with sex, but sex is a sacred act, and I think, as people say in the black community, it's not just a black community thing. Although I think white people are affected by it too in some cases. That there seems to be a lack of like sacred sexuality and sacred sex and sacred, how things being taken as a sacred act that our media kind of portrays and things in a very slutty, negative light, that affects the whole version of society. But I thought about going on my Twitter today, and I'm very proud of myself. I didn't reactivate my Twitter or see if I needed to go back on my Twitter. I didn't do it. I kind of kept myself off my Twitter, and I'm hoping it's going to be deleted. So, but I was earlier this morning. I was like, oh, do I go back on my Twitter? No, don't go back on your Twitter. I said, nope, don't do it. Don't do it. So, but anyways, I am going Republican. I got a lot of changes to do on my social media when it comes to where my views should be. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I really believe in the LGBT community anymore. I mean, I've been open in the past to like seeing men. I've been open in the past to seeing women, but I'm really not feminine. I'm really not anything other than myself. I'm not really cross-gender, transgender, any of that. So I don't really, believe in some of the things that are being pushed on society, where men are in the women's bathroom or using the women's bathroom or etc. when it comes to shit. So I don't believe in any of that shit. I don't think it's kind of okay. I had an ex that used to be transgender, and it just bothered the fuck out of me. I had a couple exes that were cutters. I had a couple exes that were transgender. And it bothered me. It bothered me as a person. I don't want to walk out my door and have my ex fucking wear makeup and shit. I didn't. It bothered me. kind of like my fucking exes, like with their mental health diagnosis, because it's a mental health diagnosis to actually cut yourself, and actually, because it kind of relieves the pain or mental health or something. It has to do with a dissociative disorder, I think it was, because my one of my therapists I was working with for like 15 years before he retired said, yeah, that's a dissociative disorder, because I was talking to him about my exes and things of how I couldn't, handle people cutting themselves, and how they would run to my bathroom and try to cut themselves, and it takes a strong person to have to deal with that, but nobody really has time to deal with that, and etc. And I definitely didn't back then, but I put myself through a lot of shit just by choosing some of the wrong people that I did. So, but anyways, that's all I gotta say at this point. Trump 2024, go Trump.